You're at your husband's family Thanksgiving dinner, trying to be the perfect daughter-in-law, when your sister-in-law stands up with a glass of wine and starts telling everyone about your little financial problems. She's smiling like an angel while destroying your reputation, making you sound like a gold-digging failure in front of 20 relatives you barely know. Meet Zoe Martinez, 28 years old, married to the love of her life for 2 years, and absolutely terrified of family gatherings because of one person, Diane. Diane is her husband Ryan's older sister, the family golden child who can do no wrong, and Zoe's personal nightmare wrapped in desire clothes and fake smiles. This is the story of what happens when someone pushes the wrong person too far, when kindness gets mistaken for weakness, and when a woman who's been quietly gathering evidence finally decides to use it. So Diane Rivera thinks she's the queen of the Rivera family, and honestly, everyone treats her like she is. She's 32, married to a successful lawyer named Hunter, lives in a gorgeous house in the best neighborhood, and drives a BMW that's newer than most people's apartments. She's got the perfect Instagram life: designer handbags, exotic vacations, restaurant meals that cost more than most people's grocery budget for a month. From day one, Diane made it clear that Zoe wasn't good enough for her precious little brother. When Ryan first brought Zoe home 3 years ago, Diane looked her up and down like she was examining a piece of used furniture someone was trying to pass off as antique. "So, Zoe," Diane had said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, "what do you do for work?" "I'm a teacher," Zoe replied, proud of her job, even though the pay wasn't much. "Oh," Diane's smile got sharper, "how noble. And you live in an apartment, right? In that area downtown?" The way she said "that area" made it sound like Zoe lived in a crack house instead of a perfectly nice one-bedroom apartment that she worked hard to afford. Diane's attacks started small, little comments that could be brushed off as jokes or misunderstandings. At Ryan's birthday dinner, she'd say things like, "Oh, Zoe, you're so lucky Ryan doesn't care about fancy restaurants. Some men have such expensive tastes." At Christmas, when Zoe brought homemade cookies instead of store-bought expensive ones, "How sweet. Homemade treats are so personal. I never have time for that kind of thing with my busy schedule." But Diane's favorite weapon was the backhanded compliment delivered in front of the entire family. She'd wait until everyone was listening, then strike. "Zoe, I just love how you're so comfortable being yourself. Not everyone can pull off that casual look at family events. You're so confident." Translation: "You look cheap and underdressed, and everyone here knows it." Ryan never caught it. Men never do. He'd just smile and think his sister was being welcoming. But Zoe heard every word, felt every cut, and started dreading family gatherings like other people dread root canals. Diane's cruelest attacks always centered around money. She'd casually mention expensive purchases in front of Zoe, then act shocked when Zoe couldn't relate. "Hunter and I just booked a trip to Italy for our anniversary, 2 weeks in Tuscany. Where are you and Ryan going for yours?" "Oh, right, you're saving up. That's so smart." She'd organize family activities that cost a fortune, then act disappointed when Zoe and Ryan couldn't participate. "Wine tasting in Napa? It's only $300 per person." "Oh, that's too much. Well, maybe next time." The worst part was how she'd make Zoe's financial situation sound like a character flaw. Like being a teacher who couldn't afford luxury vacations was somehow a moral failing instead of a reality for millions of hardworking people. Zoe isn't stupid. She's a teacher, which means she's used to dealing with bullies, and she knows how to pay attention to details. And Diane's details weren't adding up. For someone who supposedly had so much money, Diane sure spent a lot of time on Facebook Marketplace. Zoe started noticing Diane posting expensive items for sale: designer purses, jewelry, electronics, always with some excuse: spring cleaning or redecorating. Then Zoe discovered Diane's secret Instagram account, not the polished one she showed the family, but a second account where she was selling everything from her wedding china to her grandmother's antique jewelry. The desperation in the captions was obvious once you knew what to look for. Need gone ASAP, and price negotiable, and must sell today. Zoe started screenshotting everything, not because she was planning to use it, but because something about Diane's behavior felt off, and Zoe's teacher instincts told her to document things when they didn't make sense. The truth about Diane's financial situation came out by accident. Zoe was at the grocery store when she saw Diane's husband Hunter looking absolutely miserable in the pharmacy section. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, his usual confident lawyer composure completely gone. "Hunter, are you okay?" He looked up, startled, then seemed to deflate. "Oh, hi, Zoe. It's been a rough week." Something in his voice made Zoe stay. "Do you want to talk about it?" That's when Hunter broke down and told her everything. Diane had been gambling online for months. Poker, slots, sports betting, anything that promised quick money. She'd burned through their savings, maxed out credit cards, and was now selling family heirlooms to fund her addiction. "She told me she was investing in cryptocurrency," Hunter said, his voice hollow. "I trusted her with our finances because she's always been so good with money. But she's lost everything, Zoe. We're going to lose the house." Hunter made Zoe promise not to tell anyone. He was trying to handle it privately, trying to get Diane into treatment without destroying her reputation with the family. He was protecting the woman who was destroying their lives. Thanksgiving at the Rivera house was always a production. 30 relatives, 2 turkeys, and enough food to feed a small army. Zoe usually dreaded it, but this year felt different. This year, she knew the truth about Diane's perfect life. Zoe arrived with Ryan, carrying a homemade apple pie and wearing her nicest dress, which she knew Diane would find a way to criticize. Sure enough, Diane was there in the brand new outfit, playing the perfect hostess, accepting compliments on her beautiful home and her wonderful life. "Zoe!" Diane air-kissed her cheeks, leaving a cloud of expensive perfume. "You look so comfortable. I love how you just wear whatever makes you happy." The first strike, delivered with a smile in front of Ryan's aunt and uncle. Dinner was the usual Rivera family chaos. Multiple conversations, kids running around, everyone talking over each other. Zoe was actually enjoying herself, sitting between Ryan and his grandmother, listening to family stories and feeling like she might finally belong. That's when Diane struck. After the main course, Diane stood up with her wine glass, tapping it with her fork to get everyone's attention. "I'd like to make a toast." The room quieted down, all eyes on Diane. She looked radiant, confident, completely in control. "I just want to say how grateful I am for this wonderful family and how lucky we are to have each other through good times and challenging times." She paused, letting her eyes drift to Zoe with fake sympathy. "Some of us are going through difficult periods right now. Financial stress can be so hard on a marriage, can't it? But I want Zoe to know that we're all here for her and Ryan as they navigate these money troubles." The room went dead silent. 20 pairs of eyes turned to look at Zoe, who felt her face burning with humiliation. Ryan's mouth fell open in shock. Of course, when you're young and just starting out, it's natural to struggle a bit. Not everyone can afford the finer things in life right away. But Zoe, I want you to know that there's no shame in living paycheck to paycheck. We've all been there. Diane's smile was pure poison. She was destroying Zoe's reputation, making her sound like a charity case, and doing it all while pretending to be supportive. "In fact," Diane continued, "if you ever need help budgeting or managing your finances, I'd be happy to give you some tips. Hunter and I have been so blessed with our financial stability." That's when Zoe snapped. Zoe stood up slowly, her heart pounding, but her voice steady. She'd been a teacher long enough to know how to command a room. Thank you so much for that generous offer, Diane. It's so kind of you to share your financial expertise. Diane's smile faltered slightly. This wasn't going according to her script. Since we're talking about money management, Zoe continued, I think everyone would be interested to know about your alternative income streams, like your Instagram account where you sell your engagement ring, your grandmother's jewelry, and your wedding china. The room went dead silent. Diane's face went white. Or maybe we should discuss your investment strategies. Hunter mentioned your cryptocurrency investments, though I think most people would call repeatedly betting your mortgage payment on online poker something different than investing. Diane's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. Zoe, Ryan whispered, what are you doing? I'm sharing financial tips, honey, since Diane is so concerned about money management. Zoe pulled out her phone, scrolling through the screenshots she'd been collecting for months. Here's your grandmother's pearl necklace for sale on Facebook Marketplace. Must sell today, cash only. And here's your Tiffany bracelet, wedding gift from Hunter, if I remember correctly. Price to move, need gone ASAP. The room erupted. Family members started talking at once, voices raised in shock and confusion. Ryan's mother stood up, her face pale as she recognized her mother's jewelry in the photos. Diane, she said quietly. Diane tried to recover, but the damage was done. I was decluttering. People sell things all the time. What about the gambling? Zoe asked, her voice cutting through the chaos. Hunter's been trying to get you help, hasn't he? That's why you've been selling family heirlooms, to pay off your online poker debts. Hunter appeared in the doorway, having heard the commotion from the kitchen. When he saw his wife standing there, exposed and cornered, his shoulders sagged with resignation. It's true, he said quietly. Diane has a gambling problem. We've lost everything. The confession hit the room like a bomb. Ryan's grandmother started crying. His father demanded to know why they weren't told. His mother wanted to know about her mother's jewelry that Diane had sold without permission. Diane tried to recover, but the damage was done. I was decluttering. People sell things all the time. What about the gambling? Zoe asked, her voice cutting through the chaos. Hunter's been trying to get you help, hasn't he? That's why you've been selling family heirlooms, to pay off your online poker debts. Hunter appeared in the doorway, having heard the commotion from the kitchen. When he saw his wife standing there, exposed and cornered, his shoulders sagged with resignation. It's true, he said quietly. Diane has a gambling problem. We've lost everything. The confession hit the room like a bomb. Ryan's grandmother started crying. His father demanded to know why they weren't told. His mother wanted to know about her mother's jewelry that Diane had sold without permission. Diane tried to spin it, tried to make herself the victim. I was trying to handle it privately. I didn't want to worry anyone. By humiliating your sister-in-law, Ryan's aunt spoke up, by making Zoe sound like a charity case when your own house is in foreclosure. What happened next was the most honest conversation the Rivera family had ever had. Years of Diane's manipulation came to light as family members started sharing their own experiences with her backhanded comments and cruel observations. Ryan's cousin mentioned how Diane had made fun of her weight at her own wedding. His aunt talked about Diane's comments about her husband's job. Even Diane's own mother admitted she'd noticed the constant put-downs, but had dismissed them as Diane being particular. You've been making everyone feel small to make yourself feel big, Ryan's grandmother said, her voice shaking with anger and hurt. And you sold my mother's jewelry to fund your gambling, jewelry that was supposed to go to your children someday. Hunter stood behind his wife's chair, looking exhausted and defeated. I've been trying to get her into treatment, but she keeps saying she can quit on her own. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage. I've been working overtime just to keep the lights on. Diane finally broke down, the perfect facade cracking completely. But instead of taking responsibility, she lashed out. This is all Zoe's fault. If she hadn't been so nosy, none of this would have happened. None of what? Zoe asked. Your gambling addiction? Your lies? Your cruelty? I didn't cause any of that, Diane. I just refuse to let you destroy my reputation to protect your secrets. The rest of Thanksgiving was a blur of family meetings, phone calls, and emergency planning. Hunter and Diane left early, but not before Diane was forced to apologize to everyone she'd hurt over the years, especially Zoe. The apology was hollow and forced, but Zoe didn't care. She wasn't looking for Diane's redemption. She just wanted the truth out in the open. Ryan was devastated, realizing how blind he'd been to his sister's behavior. "I'm so sorry, Zoe. I should have seen what she was doing to you." "She's your sister," Zoe said. "You wanted to see the best in her." The family rallied around Hunter, helping him find resources for Diane's gambling addiction and offering financial support to help them avoid foreclosure. But they also made it clear that Diane's days of playing Queen Bee were over. "No more family events until she gets treatment," Ryan's mother declared, "and no more access to family finances or heirlooms, ever." 6 months later, Diane was in intensive therapy for her gambling addiction and her narcissistic behavior. She'd been forced to face the reality of what her lies and cruelty had cost her, not just financially, but emotionally. Hunter was still with her, but their relationship was completely different. No more joint bank accounts, no more access to credit cards, no more financial decisions without oversight. Diane had to earn back trust she'd spent years destroying. The family dynamic changed too. Without Diane's constant manipulation and put-downs, family gatherings became actually enjoyable. People felt free to be themselves without worrying about being judged or mocked. Zoe found herself becoming closer to Ryan's family than she'd ever imagined possible. Without Diane's interference, they got to know the real Zoe, not the struggling failure Diane had painted her as, but a smart, kind, hardworking woman who loved their son. At the next family gathering, Easter dinner, Diane was noticeably absent, still working through her treatment program. The conversation was lighter, the laughter more genuine, the atmosphere warmer without her toxic presence. Ryan's grandmother pulled Zoe aside during dessert. "Thank you for standing up to her," she said quietly. "We all let her get away with too much for too long. Someone needed to tell the truth." "I just got tired of being her target," Zoe replied. "You weren't her only target," the older woman said. "She made everyone feel small, but you were the only one brave enough to fight back." That's when Zoe realized something important. Diane hadn't been targeting her because she was weak or poor or unworthy. Diane had been targeting her because she was strong enough to see through the facade, and Diane knew it. Zoe's story isn't about revenge. It's about what happens when someone finally decides to stop accepting abuse and start demanding truth. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to be silent when someone tries to destroy you. Diane thought she could humiliate Zoe in front of the whole family, make her look like a failure and a burden. But she picked the wrong target. She chose to attack a teacher, someone trained to recognize bullying, someone used to standing up to people who abuse their power, someone who knows how to research and document and present evidence. The sister-in-law who tried to destroy Zoe's reputation ended up destroying her own instead. Not because Zoe was vindictive, but because the truth has a way of coming out when you stop protecting the people who are hurting you. Today, Diane is working on becoming a better person, and that's good for everyone involved. But she learned the hard way that not everyone will stay quiet while you tear them down. Sometimes the person you're trying to embarrass has screenshots, evidence, and the courage to use them. And sometimes the quiet teacher who you thought was an easy target turns out to be the strongest person in the room, strong enough to tell the truth when everyone else was too polite to speak up. The golden child fell from grace not because someone pushed her, but because she climbed so high on lies that the fall was inevitable. Zoe just made sure everyone saw her land. You can share your own story. Email it to me if you want to stay anonymous. And remember to subscribe for more relatable stories.